Welcome into the MMA Best Bets for UFC 275, which goes down on Sunday morning in Singapore, Saturday night here in the United States. I am Jason Floyd. That is the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr., and we are sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Of course, you got to check out what FanDuel Sportsbook has for you. As you bet $5 with FanDuel Sportsbook, win $200 guaranteed. All you got to do is click the link in the video description below to claim your free $200 now. And Pete, before we get into all of our best bets here, I think that's something we've got to talk about is the fact of when we look at local time in Singapore, Sunday morning, these fights start local time, 6:30 a.m.
So it's pretty early to be angry and have to go out there and fight. I will tell you that that's not an ideal circumstance, but if, fighters belong to strong camps, this isn't anything out of the norm. They're always acclimating to their surroundings and, getting out there early enough. So I love it when I see a strong camp get out there a week, week and a half, 2 weeks to acclimate to the surroundings. But man, regardless, fighting at 6:30 in the morning, that's tough. Early morning practices are tough in itself. Never mind having to compete that early.
Yeah. Could you imagine the fact that if you're the first fight of the night and you're probably getting up at 3 a.m.?
Yeah, more than that. Yeah, you have to completely flip your schedule. So you're probably waking up every day at midnight technically. And just trying to for me, like, I don't know, I like to be up a little bit. Some people can take a nap and then go right out there and perform. And I'm not one of those fighters by any means. So.
Well, let's carry on that success we had last week at UFC Vegas 56 into UFC 275. And I'm going to go to money line. I'm searching these lines. I'm going, where do I want to go? And I found myself just looking at the main event, and I'm going to go with Jiri Prochazka as the favorite here. He's a minus 215 betting favorite over there at FanDuel Sportsbook. And look, it's a very tough fight for Jiri. To me, he's got to keep this fight at range. Do not allow this to where Glover can potentially get his back up against the fence. I do think the bigger cage will have a big benefit for Jiri to be able to move around. Very unique striker. This is a guy that I think a lot of us really got to know back when he was in Ryzen. And kind of the interesting story with him is he's a guy the UFC tried to sign earlier, but he said, no, I'm not ready. I want to develop my skills more on. And of course, now we've seen, 2 fights in. He hasn't fought since last year. That kind of is a question mark heading this one. But I think because of his striking, his speed, that'll be the advantage against Glover. But I do understand there is that submission threat that is there from Glover Teixeira.
Yeah, it's a tough fight, man. It really is a tough fight. And, Jiri has youth on his side, and he has athleticism, speed, awkwardness, and just being the unorthodox striker that he is. He can catch Glover Teixeira with some shots that he doesn't see coming. If you think about Alexander Gustafsson having, great success with the uppercuts coming from strange angles, and it's footwork, good volume, and just picking his shots and avoiding that cage where Glover's going to try to pin him up against it and work his takedown. So there's value on the line for the young shiny toy that everybody loves in the UFC and Jiri Prochazka. For me, I'm going to go with one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. And I can say that even though he's early on in his career in the UFC, it's Della Maddalena. I've been, I've been the conductor of the hype train for Della Maddalena, similar to Tom Aspinall, Hamza Chimaev. I really think that this guy is the next, big deal. Sitting there at minus 166 for a money line play. Think there's so much value on that line. I do understand the risk in the takedown department against Ramazan Emeev. I do think that Ramazan Emeev is lethargic and can get hit and punished on the feet. And I think there's a blueprint out there of how to beat him. Just he hasn't been met with such a powerful puncher in Della Maddalena. So I'm picking Maddalena at minus 166, and I really like that play.
Yeah, I like Della as well. We're going to talk about him in our 3-fighter parlay. Just like you, my only concern I have in the matchup is potentially him getting taken ground and not being able to get off his back, but really like there. As we talk about that 3-fighter parlay, I'll give you my 3-fighter parlay, and I'll tell you, me and Pete are very similar on this one. I've got Maddalena. Also, I've got Manel Kopp. Really like what Manel Kopp is doing. Of course, unfortunately, could not fight a little earlier this year. And my third fighter in my 3-fighter parlay, which will be plus 266, is a guy that I guess we can basically call the new Donald Cerrone. Guy that's just going to fight every month. That's Andre Filiho taking on Jake Matthews. I think that's one of those things where I expect that he's going to have to stop takedown attempts from Jake Matthews, but I do like Andre Filiho in this one. And look, I think that even if you want to do a little stack here this week, you got a couple of guys here fighting out of Sanford MMA that you can put together here. But I do like Manel Cobb, Jack Della, Maddalena, and Andre Filiho is my 3-fighter parlay.
I think the value on that parlay is awesome. I love Jack Della Maddalena, as I just discussed. I really like Manel Cobb. He's in that top 10 favorite fighters as well for me. And I think that this guy will be contending for the belt within the next year or two. Truthfully, I do. I'm pairing Maddalena with Manel Cobb, and I can't not put Shevchenko in the parlay. I know that her line's blown out of proportion, but I just got to do it. I love Valentina Shevchenko, so I'm going to put her in there. And my parlay sits at plus 155. I do understand the risk against Tyler Santos, who is much more skilled than some of Shevchenko's opposition thus far. But I mean, Shevchenko to me is just so well-rounded, so battle-tested, and I think she's going to put on another dominant performance here.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is I was looking at Shevchenko fight. I was more looking at the props in terms of that matchup. The one thing is I do believe that Thalia's got to make this a dog fight. Yeah. She's got to bring the fight to Shevchenko in that one and try to force it maybe into a little bit of a dirty boxing type of matchup and really bring that fight to. But I definitely agree with you. Love Shevchenko there. I mean, it's a huge odd, so you got to be looking as a parlay piece or the props. Of course, we'll get into our props here in a moment, but do want to let you know about our sponsor, FanDuel Sportsbook, or bet $5 on FanDuel Sportsbook, win $200 guaranteed. Click the link in the video description below to claim your free $200 now. And to give you a little insight into how this show works is right before the show, me and Pete will send over me what his plays are, and then I as he sends me his prop bet, I just start chuckling here in the home studio because we are on the same fight, the same prop, but two different fighters. We are both going to the 3-round rematch between Zhang Weili and Joanna Jedrzejczyk. We both like the decision prop. Yeah. Give me Weili. You want to go Joanna. First off, for me, one of the things that, and I'll kind of give my thought process on why I like Weili in this spot is, first off, I have a lot of questions about Joanna Jedrzejczyk coming in this matchup. She's been away. She has not fought since March of 2020. To give you a little perspective on that, she fought 1 month after the last time we saw John Jones. Just throw a little perspective out there for that. That kind of gives you an idea how long it has been for her. I do like Weili being at fight ready. When you go back to her first matchup, she did attempt, I want to say it was 8 takedowns. She got 1 takedown in that matchup. I do believe you are going to see her attempt to get this fight to the ground. I'm kind of thinking the first round is going to be a feeling out process. And ultimately, then the second round kind of be these two going at, and the third round, I think this is going to become a war. It's kind of like it was in the first matchup. I think this is a very close matchup. I give a slight edge to Weili here, plus 130 on the decision proper way. So, Pete, tell me why I'm wrong.
So, yeah, we don't speak before the show. So, obviously, we try to be, as candid as possible. And sometimes we're on the same lines, and great minds think alike. And sometimes we're on opposite ends of the spectrum right here. And I think if you're listening to this, you could easily take the over in this fight. I think that it's going to go to the cards. But my prop bet is going to be Joanna via decision, sitting at plus 200. Now, I think the time off can be beneficial for her. She took a ton of damage in that fight against Zhang Weili, but also just throughout her career, right? The Rose Namajunas fight. But since then, we also have seen Weili get knocked out as well. But coming back, put on a strong performance in the rematch against Rose Namajunas, implementing her wrestling, as you say. I think that getting away from her strengths in a way is good in certain matchups where it can win you a close round. But we're starting to see judges value damage over control. And I just worry if she goes to the takedown well a little bit too much. It's a 3-round fight, so who really knows? But I like the volume of Joanna. I do like the fact that she took time off and just waited for the perfect rematch or the perfect fight to come back to. And I just think that American Top Team right now is just so hot of a team. They always have been a strong team, but you're seeing all the striking coaches. You see Thiago Alves, Dia Davis, like you're seeing all these incredible coaches, blending with Mike Brown, Steve Mocco with the wrestling. I think that all the boxes are going to be checked. I really do. Like Karolina Kowalkiewicz looked excellent, last weekend, which surprised me. She looked like career best, largely due to her opponent. But still, I'm just banking on Joanna coming out here and this being a competitive, nail-biting performance. And I think she's going to do enough in the rematch to get the decision sitting there at plus 200.
And something you mentioned earlier on in this video is the fact of she went over early. Her coaches went over early. You saw it last week. Once we had 6 American top team fighters. The main coaches were not in Vegas. They were overseas. So something to think about there. But we'll see how these fights go down on Saturday. Of course, appreciate everyone checking out the MMA Best Bets right here on the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. Be sure to check out our sponsor, FanDuel Sportsbook. Check out that offer below. Leave a comment. Hit the thumbs up. Really do appreciate it. And we look forward to watching these fights on Saturday. UFC 275.